She was just the base hairdresser, scissors in her hands, smiles on her face. But when 52 enemy fighters captured America's most elite SEALs, she dropped the apron and picked up the rifle. What happened next was never in the mission reporting, but it changed everything. The base lived with its own rhythm. Dust clung to the air, kicked up by every Humvee that rattled through the gates. The metallic groan of machinery echoed from the motor pool, and the desert heat pressed down with a weight that felt permanent. Soldiers moved with purpose. Marines shouted across courtyards. Helicopters thumped overhead, their shadows dragging across gravel roads like black wings. And then there was Rachel. Most people didn't notice her. She wasn't in uniform. She wore jeans and a faded t-shirt most days, her black apron tied loose around her waist when she worked. To some, she was just the hair lady. To others, she was mom because she listened more than she spoke. They saw only scissors in her hands, never the calluses hidden beneath her skin. Her shop was small, tucked along the main plaza of the base. A cracked mirror leaned against the wall, reflecting soldiers who slouched into her chair with overgrown hair and left with regulation cuts. Bottles of aftershave lined the counter, their labels peeling from the desert heat. Clippers buzzed like restless bees, blending into the constant hum of aircraft above. In the corner of the counter lay a broken watch. Its glass face was cracked, the hands forever frozen at 0317. It had belonged to her father, Sergeant Major William Hart, a Marine sniper whose voice still lived inside her. She had never thrown it away. She couldn't. It reminded her of stillness, of waiting for the world to fall silent before a single trigger pull. To the soldiers who glanced at it, it was just junk. To Rachel, it was time she could never repair. An empty wallet sat hidden beneath the counter drawer. She never touched the money inside. Contractor pay was steady, but she cared little for it. Cutting hair was not about profit. It was about rhythm. Scissors in hand, she could fade into silence. Clip, comb, trim, repeat. She had learned more about these soldiers than most officers ever would. Men who missed home but never said it out loud. Women who laughed too loud because silence reminded them of bodies in desert alleys. Marines who pretended their scars didn't itch at night. Rachel listened without judgment. Her chair became a confessional, a place where people dropped their armor for just a moment. But for Rachel, the shop was more than a job. It was a mask. Behind the quiet brown eyes lay a history no one suspected. She had grown up in Virginia's backwoods, her father teaching her to shoot tin cans off fence posts before she was 10. He drilled her in patience, discipline, the kind of stillness that made the world itself seem to pause. By 16, she could outshoot him. By 18, she could vanish in the woods and no one would find her until she wanted to be found. But she had buried that life. She told herself she was just a hairdresser now. Just another civilian tucked away in the background of war. She trimmed, she swept, she folded towels with neat corners. Her hands, which once steadied rifles, now held scissors with equal precision. At night, when the shop closed, she sat by the small window and watched guards pace along the fences. Floodlights bathed the gravel in harsh white. Dust swirled in their beams like ghosts. She would run her thumb along the crack in the broken watch and remember her father's voice. The world has a way of testing us when we least expect it. When it comes, you don't get to choose the fight. You only choose how you face it. Rachel believed those words, but she also believed she had escaped that world. She was safe, hidden, unremarkable. That belief shattered on a night that began as ordinary as any other. The desert wind rattled chain-link fences and whispered through razor wire. The base buzzed with its muted routine. A pair of Marines joked as they walked toward the chow hall. A group of soldiers smoked near the barracks. Generators growled. Floodlights cast long shadows. Rachel wiped her scissors clean, folded her apron and turned off the lights. The shop smelled faintly of dust and aftershave. She locked the door, slipping the broken watch into her pocket without knowing why. Then the sirens screamed. Not the short, clipped bursts of drills, not the slow wail of mortar alerts. This was sharp, continuous, urgent. The night shattered. Soldiers spilled from barracks, boots pounding gravel. Shouts cracked through the air. Radios spat frantic voices. Helicopters roared to life, searchlights sweeping across the desert. Rachel froze. Her chest tightened. She had heard sirens before, but never like this. Voices cut through the chaos. Team's been hit. Radio silence. They've got SEALs. Repeat, they've captured SEALs. Her pulse slammed in her ears. Captured SEALs. She knew what that meant. Torture. Execution broadcast for the world. Time wasn't measured in hours now. It was measured in minutes. A young soldier muttered, his face pale under floodlights. 52 of them, well armed. Reinforcements 3 hours out. Another spat in the dirt. By then they'll be dead. Rachel gripped the broken watch in her pocket, the glass biting into her palm. The weight of it felt heavier than ever. All around her, men trained for war stood shackled by distance and time. Their faces carried anger, fear, and helpless truth. The base wouldn't move fast enough. Those SEALs weren't coming back unless something changed. Rachel's father's voice cut through the noise inside her head. The world will test you. You don't get to choose the fight. Her fists clenched. Her mask cracked. She whispered to herself so low no one could hear. If no one else will, I will. The hairdresser was gone. The operations center buzzed like a hive struck with a stick. Radio screamed. Boots pounded on tile. Officers hunched over maps, their voices sharp and clipped, words cracking like gunfire. Rachel slipped inside with the crowd. No one noticed her at first. Civilians didn't belong here. Contractors were supposed to hide in bunkers until the all-clear sounded. But she couldn't turn away. She saw the map glowing under floodlights. A cluster of red marks pulsed at Grid Delta Tango, the enemy stronghold. 52 fighters dug in like ticks. The captured SEALs were alive, for now. Reinforcements 3 hours out, a lieutenant barked. There'll be corpses in 1. Another spat. Rachel's chest tightened. She felt the broken watch in her pocket, the cracked glass pressing into her palm. The hands frozen at 03:17 seemed to whisper back at her, time is already gone. She stepped forward before she realized she had moved. Her voice cut through the storm of orders. There isn't time to wait. Heads turned. Soldiers frowned. Some laughed under their breath. The hairdresser, apron still tied loose around her waist, had spoken in the middle of a war council. Get her out, the colonel growled. His broad shoulders cast shadows across the map table. Civilians don't get a say in combat. Rachel didn't flinch. With respect, sir, if you wait, you'll be retrieving bodies. Not men. A ripple of disbelief ran through the room. Who was she to say this? Just a woman who cut hair, who swept clippings off the floor while soldiers planned battles. One officer sneered. You cut hair, lady. You don't cut through enemy strongholds. Rachel's jaw clenched. She remembered her father's voice sharp in her ear as a girl crawling through Virginia mud. Stay low, control your breath. The world won't wait for you. Her voice steadied. I know the terrain. The gullies, the ridges, the riverbeds. I can get you close without being seen. A lieutenant scoffed. You go hiking on your off days? That doesn't make you a soldier. Rachel didn't break his stare. No, but I can shoot. I can move quiet. And I don't lose my head when everything around me burns. The room shifted uneasily. Some smirked. Others watched her with something else, curiosity. The colonel leaned forward. His voice was low, edged with iron. Who are you? Rachel hesitated only a breath. Then she let the mask slip. Rachel Hart. My father was Sergeant Major William Hart, Marine sniper. The name landed heavy. Murmurs rippled. Some had heard it before. Stories of the sniper who could sit in freezing rain for days, who trained younger Marines until their hands bled. I grew up under his shadow, Rachel continued. He taught me to shoot before I was 10. By 16, I outshot him. I know what I'm doing. If you send men in blind, they die. If you let me guide you, you have a chance. The colonel studied her face, searching for cracks. He found none. At last, he exhaled sharply. Fine, you're in. But hear me, Hart. You step out there, you're not a contractor anymore. You carry your own weight. Or you die with the rest, Rachel nodded. Understood. Minutes later, she stood in the gear room, slipping into fatigues. The fabric was stiff, the boots heavy. Body armor pressed against her chest like an old memory. When a rifle was placed in her hands, her fingers curled around the grip naturally. She chambered around and tested the balance. Smooth, steady. One soldier muttered as he passed, half sneering. Hairdresser with a rifle. This'll be rich. Rachel ignored him. She touched the broken watch in her pocket and whispered, I'll carry it. The convoy rolled into the desert, headlights dimmed, engines growling low. Dust swirled behind them, swallowing the base lights until only darkness remained. Rachel sat pressed against the cold steel wall of the transport. The rifle lay across her knees, heavy but familiar. Around her, SEALs adjusted night vision goggles and checked magazines. No one spoke to her. She could feel their skepticism pressing like heat against her skin. She kept her eyes on the terrain. The ridges, the gullies, the dry riverbeds she had walked in her off hours. She had memorized them without knowing why. Now they were her map. Her father's training hummed in her blood. She counted heartbeats. She slowed her breathing until her chest barely moved. Every jolt of the truck became part of her rhythm. The convoy halted in the shadow of a ridge. "Engines cut!" Silence swallowed them. Chief Donovan, scarred down his cheek, spoke quietly. "We move on foot. 50-plus fighters means we're already outnumbered. One mistake and it's over." All eyes turned to Rachel. For the first time, they waited for her. She slung her rifle and dropped into the night. Cold air kissed her skin. The moon was a thin blade above. She crouched low, pointing to the ridge. "This way. Stay tight. Keep low. There's a dry riverbed that cuts close to the compound. Cover until the last 100 yards." They followed. Silent as shadows, Rachel moved with precision. Each step measured. Each glance sharp. She felt the ground shift beneath her boots, the cool dampness of the low ground, the way sound carried against stone. Her senses stretched outward until she felt every shift of the desert around her. A faint glow appeared ahead. Enemy patrol. 2 fighters stood smoking near a ridge. Rachel froze. Hand raised. The team dropped instantly, trusting her instinct. She crawled forward on her belly, peered over the rise. Cigarette embers glowed like fireflies. Rifle slung careless, she slid back. Whispered, "2, stationary," Donovan signaled. 2 SEALs flanked silently, disappearing into shadows. Knives flashed in the moonlight. The patrol crumpled without sound. The team moved on. The air grew heavy with danger, pressing closer with every step. At last, the compound loomed ahead. Battered walls, guard towers. Dim lanterns flickered, casting shadows of armed men. Faint metallic clang of chains drifted across the night. Rachel's stomach clenched. The cages! She crouched low, resting her rifle along the ridge. Her cheek pressed against the stock. Her breathing slowed until it matched the earth. Her father's voice whispered, "Patience. Let the target reveal himself." A guard stepped into the lantern light, shoulders relaxed, rifle slung low. Rachel exhaled, squeezed. The suppressed shot cracked soft as a cough. The guard dropped. The first strike. For a heartbeat, the compound stayed oblivious. Then confusion rippled like a shockwave. Heads turned. Voices rose. Rachel shifted aim. Fired again. Another body crumpled. The SEALs moved instantly, ghost-like. Rachel slid down the ridge with them, rifle steady. Then a flare hissed upward, exploding red across the sky. Gunfire erupted. The night shattered. Gunfire ripped through the compound. Tracer rounds streaked red across the smoke. Grenades thumped, their concussions shaking the ground. Fighters shouted in their language, firing wildly into the dark. Rachel ran beside Donovan, her rifle bucking against her shoulder. She dropped a man from a rooftop, pivoted, cut down another near the gate. Each shot was clean, controlled, as if she had never laid the rifle down all those years ago. They reached the wall. Charges planted. A muffled explosion blasted a jagged hole through concrete. Smoke poured. The SEALs surged through. Rachel followed, ducking low as bullets sliced overhead. Inside, chaos. Fighters scrambled, tripping over each other. Sparks flew as rounds slammed metal. At the far end, cages. Chains rattled. Shadows moved inside. Voices rose, hoarse but desperate. "North building. Free them!" Donovan roared. Rachel swung rear guard. A wave of fighters charged from a side gate. She pivoted, dropped the lead man, then the second, then the third. Her trigger rhythm matched her breath. For every fighter who fell, more pressed in. One rushed too close with a knife. Rachel swung hard, buttstock slamming his throat. He crumpled. She fired a short burst, ending him clean. For the first time, a SEAL beside her glanced with respect, not disbelief. Chains shattered. Captured men stumbled free, eyes wide at the sight of a woman fighting shoulder to shoulder with their brothers. But relief was brief. RPGs gleamed on a rooftop. Rachel exhaled, squeezed. One fighter dropped. Then another. The rockets slipped, detonating harmlessly in dirt. Yet the tide didn't stop. 52 wasn't a number anymore. It was an ocean. Rachel pressed her back against the wall, lungs burning, eyes stinging. Then a grenade clattered across the floor. Rolling straight toward the freed men, she didn't think. She dove, snatched it up, hurled it back over the wall. The explosion rocked the compound. Smoke swallowed everything. Her ears rang, but the fight didn't stop. Fighters surged from alleys, firing wild bursts. The compound floor turned slick with blood. Rachel dragged herself up, shoved a rifle into a freed SEAL's hands. "Fight!" she barked. Donovan's voice roared over the storm. "Perimeter. Hold them back." Rachel pivoted to the rear. Shadows slipped through smoke. She dropped 3, but more spilled through the breach. A bullet grazed her arm, tearing fabric and flesh. Pain seared, but she kept firing. Her father's voice whispered inside her. Patience, control. One breath. One shot. She obeyed. Breath. Trigger. Breath. Trigger. Bodies crumpled. But the math was cruel. For every fighter who fell, 2 more appeared. "We can't hold," a SEAL shouted. Rachel's eyes darted to the south wall. Weakest point. Closest to the dry riverbed. The dusty road to survival. "There," she shouted. "South wall. We break there." Donovan's eyes locked with hers. Trust had replaced doubt. He nodded. "South wall on her lead." Charges slammed into place. The wall blew apart in dust and fire. Rachel surged through first, rifle raised. "Clear. Out, go!" The team spilled into the riverbed, dragging wounded, carrying weak. Behind them, the compound burned, screams echoing. Rachel clutched the broken watch in her pocket. Its silence cut deeper than the roar behind her. Time is already gone. They stumbled along the dusty road, but shadows moved along the ridge. Reinforcements. Another wave. The first shot cracked from above. Bullets rained down from the ridge. Dust exploded around them. Rachel dropped flat, returned fire, cutting a gap. The rescued SEAL stumbled forward, weak but alive. They clung to rifles like lifelines. The firefight dragged on through the night. Hours bled. Ammunition dwindled. The dusty road became a battlefield of grit and survival. At last, dawn brushed the horizon. Pale light revealed bodies scattered along the ridge. The fighters had broken. Helicopters thumped in the distance. Dust rose as rescue neared. Rachel sagged to her knees, rifle across her lap, chest heaving. Donovan crouched beside her, soot streaking his face. His voice was low but heavy with truth. "You saved them. You saved us. You're not just a hairdresser anymore." The freed SEALs gathered, faces etched with disbelief and gratitude. One whispered, "Who are you?" Rachel touched the broken watch in her pocket, her thumb tracing the crack. "You don't choose the fight, only how you face it." She met their eyes. "I am someone who couldn't stay silent." The helicopters lifted them out, dust swallowing the battlefield. Back at base, soldiers stared as they landed. Whispers spread. The hairdresser had led a rescue against impossible odds. Rachel didn't need their words. She carried the empty wallet, the broken watch, and the memory of the dusty road, symbols of who she had been and who she had become, not just a hairdresser. A protector, a warrior forged in silence and fire. She walked back into her shop. The scissors waited on the counter. She reached for them with hands still trembling. Then the siren screamed again. A new shadow was coming. Rachel lifted her eyes to the mirror. In the cracked glass, she no longer saw the quiet hairdresser. She saw the fighter her father had trained, and knew the world wasn't done with her yet.